Welcome back, Ennio. Uh, Good to have you back on. I'm excited to talk about what you guys have been building recently with Profit. We've been talking a lot about Profit. I'm super bullish on the area of permissionless event market creation or event contract creation. So yeah, I'm happy to have you back on.
Yeah, good to be back on board. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. Been following some news, like live streaming markets. I was thinking how live streaming markets could affect like legal proceedings because people like are tied to watching legal proceedings. But yeah, that's just where my head's at right this second. Good to be back on board. Keen to chat about profit developments. Keen to hear what's going on with Polyfactual. Yeah, let's dive into it.
Yeah. You just sent me something like 5 seconds ago about profit. No, well, not about profit. About live
Yeah,
stream
let's
market.
talk about it,
Company,
dude. Let's talk about
yeah,
it.
K25.
Looks very interesting. Um,
Yeah,
like how much there is would be an interesting thing to know. But either way, I think like from my understanding, obviously, I just reading this now. Um, the idea would be if you zoom out and you say, cool, then like, where are people spending their time? They're pretty much online, and a lot of that's watching live streams, whatever it is, whether it be sports or whether it be your favorite kick streamer. But my understanding of this is that they'll have almost real time settlement, and it's a way for viewers to increase their level of engagement with the streamer. Like I'm not personally, I don't watch much streaming, but from my understanding, like you can pay to send the streamer a message, or you pay to subscribe to their stream, but you can imagine where people are almost watching a stream through a trading terminal, and there's maybe viewers are creating markets, or the streamer before has a couple markets, and it's maybe he has even provides liquidity for the markets. He's taking a position against his audience. He's like, I'm not going to do this, but if the odds get to X, I'm gonna do it, and it becomes like insider trading, but the streamer is the insider, and the public's fully aware of that. Um,
yeah, it's really interesting because this trend. So I'd be curious to know how much they raised as well. It says that their valuation was doubled to 200 million. I've never heard of this company. This is the first time I'm hearing about them. I did find their Twitter. I believe this is their actual Twitter, and it looks like they're fairly
mm,
recently launched. This live streaming prediction market stuff was when I first entered into prediction markets pretty much a year ago. This was actually still like a really hot topic. People were trying to make live stream prediction markets happen. And I remember having like my first earliest conversations when I was getting into the prediction market space was with a protocol that was doing live streaming and prediction markets at the same time. So whether that was you watching a football game or you watching a streamer on Twitch predicting what they're going to say, this was like a huge thing, and then it never took off. So I'm interested in seeing what these guys are doing differently, or if there's like a different
but
angle they're
I
approaching it.
think what's changed is that AI has come a long way, and it's going a lot faster. So from that perspective, it might have been a lot harder a year ago to like effectively resolve from like one video data source, um, versus now it's maybe even with open source models, something like that is quite possible. So I think their whole thing is obviously they've given them like they've got a .ai. We've also got a .ai. We like .ais now, but yeah, it seems like it's the AI that's going to make it work, and that's also our sort of thesis. So it's nice to see this sort of thing happening, and I love to play around. But I need a code. If anyone's got a code, drop it in the chat.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If anyone has a code, yeah, maybe I should get these guys on the stream too. I mean, maybe I should reach out to them and see if they're interested in coming on. That was really interesting. which is a whole nother area. I think prediction market is totally under discussed. This idea of using prediction markets for something other than predicting, pure incentive markets, right? If you have a live
Mm,
stream and you're donating to a Twitch streamer during a super chat, you're not really getting anything back. Maybe there's a way where you could change that with by integrating prediction markets, right? Creating some sort of incentive. I don't exactly know how, but I've always found it interesting. They do already pay the streamer. But it's like, you're not getting anything back when you super chat someone. That's just you giving away money.
yeah, and I guess an example of, if you think of it like questing, like there's case to be made for questing as well. But I saw Rain posted when there was still operating prediction market, they posted that I think there was like 200K or so in the pool, but that was
Interesting.
essentially a bounty that no one with over 20 million followers on X would make a post about them. So they're putting a bounty up for marketing. Similarly, like we could do, no one will spray paint polyfactual on the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
And then it might get someone to go and do it. I think for questing, for a way to engage your community, exactly how it's going to take shape is interesting. And I guess the way to learn more about it would be just to figure out what streamers, what viewers of streamers actually want. Like, are they just passive, or are they actually quite engaged? Probably depends on if you're watching like a live match, or if you're watching someone play a game. If you're watching someone play a game, maybe you're more disengaged and you're just watching the gameplay. I don't know. It's an interesting space. I'd love to know how many hours a day is spent watching streaming.
But do you think prediction markets could be a better version of questing? Because right now, if you go on pump.fun, you go to bounty markets, which I've been looking into recently. I have been looking into bounty markets. It's just post a bounty, submit. There's a centralized force, pump.fun, that is reviewing each bounty. So it's not even the project reviewing the bounty submission. It's a third party. So it is, in that way, it's kind of similar to prediction markets. But do you think that a prediction market would do a better job at the bounties, is what you're saying?
I I'm not convinced. Maybe for bigger things, like for massive things where you're not, it doesn't need to be tracked so individually. But I see some marketing tactics are like people paying per comment, where you're paying 15 cents or per comment, tagging your company's name. So from that perspective, it's something that's like micro distributions, and it needs to be hyper tracked. Like there's no real benefit to bring a prediction market in there. Like the resolution source is, it all needs to be tied into the platform, but it kind of is a mini prediction market. It's just a different form. It's saying if you post this, then you will get this 15-cent bounty. If you don't post this, you will not get this 15-cent bounty, and you have the option to go yes and then do the action and get it, or not. But I think, yeah, for bigger things, for sure. Like, do I think Galaxy or like Quest 3 is going to become a prediction market platform? Maybe. Yeah, maybe they would, but not that I know of.
So let's kind of shift gears to profit and what you're working on, what you're building. How's it been going? I know that you've been live for a while. Well, not a long time actually. I think you went live pretty recently, but I've been experimenting with the platform. I mean, we did I'll just kind of do a little advertisement for our market that we created. We created a market on Robinhood and predicting the DEX volume for August, which I'm surprised that none of the major prediction markets have this. but clearly, the use case is shown here, right? Like, why is there not a market for Robinhood DEX volume on Polymarket or Kalshi? You can easily spin one up on Profit because it's a permissionless event contract creation platform. I've been having a great time with it. I'm just wondering how it's going from your side. What are you seeing? Are you seeing any new trends? Experiencing any new challenges? Any new successes? Yeah.
Yeah, just to start off on that Robinhood market, I think it's interesting because you're now using a prediction market as a marketing tool, as a way to bring awareness to something, and whether or not a user chooses to go in and trade that market, it still brings in like an extra level of information to whatever the post is about or the topic is. I would really love to see more of this moving forward, but we've been running into some, I guess they could be expected. We've been running into some scenarios that could be expected, where obviously for those of you listening that don't know, we run an AI with a bankroll that will trade against users on any future event. So you type in any question, we generate you the likeliness of that happening, and then we'll take the trade directly against the user. We've been live for nearly 4 months, and our main goal is to keep on improving the accuracy of the odds that we're generating. But naturally, there are some loopholes. So we've seen hundreds of markets created on whether or not USDC will depeg, basically. But they've just worded it in a whole bunch of different ways. So will it be over $1.18? Will it be over $1.19? They keep asking it, and because the market's being settled every day, obviously these micro percentages add up quite rapidly. So that's something that we've sort of our priority one, to just keep on plugging these little drains, and that's been taking up quite a lot of time. What we have seen that's interesting is that initially users, like to talk about one of our successful users, Kejaman, he started off and he was just creating sports markets, like just sports markets, nothing too extreme, like taking regular levels of risk, and then at some point flipped to purely very, very high likeliness markets, with a short resolution time, and taking that trade over and over again. So it's good to see intelligent users taking advantage of the platform, and that's something that we're learning a lot from. In terms of how it's going overall, we do think we're moving towards a place where we will be able to provide liquidity at scale for almost any market. That's really our North Star. Obviously, we're quite capped at the moment. We were at $10 now for this next week or so until we have an updated pricing model. We're down to $1. So yeah, it's a long road, but it'll be exciting to be able to trade against you on Will Robinhood's Hood Chain's DEX volume, like this market, for example, but with serious capital.
And I think you mentioned to me in private too that this trader has already grossed $4,000 or upward of 4,000.
Yeah. I think he was taking some, because I was looking at he's heaps ahead of our other users. So he's made 200. Let me put him up quickly. He's made, I think, 250 or 260 markets. He's realized 3,300 markets created, 237. But he's also done a lot of trades on existing markets, because he's done a lot of trades. It's crazy. So he's been around for a bit, but I was looking at another user that was interesting. calls himself MasterCard, and he joined recently, like 8 days ago. He deposited like 3 times off the bat, like loaded up $100, and now his account's total one is $376 in profit in 8 days. So he's like 4x his account in 8 days from creating 53 markets and then trading on a number of other ones. And if I look at the markets he's created, they're all the same. They're literally all the same. USD below $1, USD below $1, USDT below $1.
So interesting. So basically, he's taking bets against the AI, essentially, and basically, and people. What you're finding is people are kind of creating these markets and categories that they're familiar with, right? So what the first trader is creating his market in sports. You have this person who's following USDC quite closely, creating markets in USDC. Are you seeing any categories popping up that are not being seen on, say, Polymarket or Kalshi too often, or maybe don't have a lot of liquidity, don't get a lot of attention?
Yeah, we are. Let's have a look through. We'll find some.
Do you want to share your? Are you able to share your screen, or do you prefer?
Yeah, for sure. I can share.
Cool. Just hit that plus button below.
Hit.
Awesome. Nice.
So if we look at the recently created ones, these are all pretty straightforward, like a lot of sports markets. There should be a section here where there's just a heap of price prediction markets. So like this is an interesting question, where it's just like one specific player, will you play a match before this date? You wouldn't necessarily see that somewhere else unless there was maybe big news around him. Also a very niche market. Will there be one plus yellow card in the second half of PSG Aston Villa? Maybe not so niche if you're deep into sports betting. A lot of asset price predictions. See here you see it. Users just taking it. But yeah, if we go into something like companies, like lead time, TSMCs, I think a lot of these are on other prediction markets. I mean, the user that's been most interesting is definitely the Valorant and League of Legends community. See if there's any of those.
Yeah, and you mentioned also that you were talking to some of these companies, some of these e-gaming companies or e-gaming or larger profiles in the esports space.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much the future for prediction markets, because there's hesitancy, or the way that these companies work is some of them have a full suite, including licensing, where you're able to get a white label front end, include whichever e-games you want from their stack, and then distribute that to whichever market you're targeting. Some of them come with up to like 20, 30 licenses for local jurisdictions, and it'll obviously be some time until there's a conglomerate like that in the prediction market space, which has set up operational hubs, legal hubs in all of these different jurisdictions. It's pretty much a one-to-many approach there, where you have companies like you have companies that have 200, 300 different operators, each of those operators providing maybe up to 10 different games. and then those thousands of games can then be offered and split up as like however the client wants. Chatting to a couple of them, some of them are building prediction markets in-house, some of them are looking to outsource it. There's obviously massive competition for distribution from Polymarket and Kalshi, given the amount of funding involved. It's almost like a turf war. But I think I think that's pretty much the direction, like the first interface where most users will interact with prediction markets is actually just going to be right where they're already playing whatever games they're into, whether it's their sports book, or like even if you just think of the Robinhood example, where a lot of people, their first time using a prediction market would have just been on Robinhood.
It makes sense because in esports you can get very granular, right? You don't have the national audiences for every game that you do for, say, soccer, football, or maybe football if you're in Europe. You don't have that national audience. So it makes sense to just have a permissionless way to just spin up a prediction market on a game that you're playing with your friends, right? So it seems to be a natural kind of transfer. The thing that really boggles my mind right now, and I understand that there are people getting into the esports space in prediction markets, but it's such a huge area, right? Saudi Arabia just did that huge esports competition. I forget what the prize money was for that specifically, but it was well into the millions. We were talking to like DG3 about that. Why do you think so? So what you're saying is you're seeing increased competition, or do you think that that's still an area that's kind of ripe for the picking?
Yeah, maybe it's not clear what I meant by esports, e-gaming. I'm talking more specifically about the like online gambling industry, in that it's a massive industry. Everyone who's interested in taking risk is already on these platforms, maybe even a completely different cohort to who's using Robinhood. Maybe there's some overlap, but I think you would be surprised in the amount of people that have a casino app on their phone, but maybe have no Robinhood app. So I just think the entry for the next wave of prediction market users is going to be from like the existing casino base of users, because like the amount of time spent on these applications is huge. Like you don't go and hang out on your stock app, or your normal person wouldn't. Maybe it's different in our industry. People like to check their pages, but yeah, the amount of time spent on these applications is huge, and they're constantly looking for new ways to engage in a really very, very active user base.
I wish that were the case for me. I spend so much time looking at charts; it hurts my eyes. But it's not nearly as fun as looking at like a game or that you enjoy. But that's probably just me. I should probably just get an agent to like do this for me already. But
Yeah,
so
I think you can keep looking at charts. I think if you enjoy looking at charts, like keep looking at them. It's kind of, you can get very into it. Close your eyes at night. You just see bars. Just see little green bars, little red bars. There's a couple of little green bars on the polyfactuals chart. I see polyfactors. It's had a bit of a pump.
yes.
How is the S round?
It's good. I think it's really interesting, the A stuff, right? So I don't know if you're familiar with how this new kind of ownership economy stuff that's taking off. So you have MetaDAO, right, which is like the staple, I think, in the ownership economy, and they have their own unique tokens, ownership tokens, which kind of give you rights that you wouldn't normally get as a stockholder. Like if you were just investing in stock, um, I, some of them include, just participating in the governments, but that's like all futarchy stuff. But really what it gives you access to is it gives you access to, they have a special purpose organization or a special purpose vehicle that contains the IP rights to the company. And if you own one of these tokens, you're getting a piece of that ownership basically. So it's doing something that a lot of tokens haven't done before. So that's MetaDAO's version, and the one that we worked with was MetalX, which is run by the same legal team that handles MetaDAO, and that essentially just tokenizes the equity, right? So if you have the Polyfax token, you can exchange the Polyfax token for equity in the company if you want, in which case you would burn it. I think you guys just purchased a bunch of Polyfax, which I appreciate. But we've been talking about that, and yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting vehicle. And once you are able to exchange the tokens for equity, you get the equity as an NFT. And you can create all sorts of stuff out of that, cap tables, whatever. So we did our ace round. It was pretty good. We raised about, I think, the tokens fluctuated since, but when it was at the time of the raise, it was about 50,000. Of course, it's gone down since then. We're not putting it out of any wallets.
The tokens get burnt.
Sorry, what's that?
The tokens that are swapped for equity, they just get burnt.
Yes, they get burned. So no, they don't get burned. They get held by us, but it's basically like a year. But we hold it for like a year. It's in the contract that we hold it for a year, so that they stay in like a special wallet. Yeah.
It definitely a way for like Pump to legitimize this project, or it gives Pump opportunities, like Pump teams the opportunities to legitimize their project, because there's a lot of like advisors that at a certain time would have just said you need to get a token live ASAP. You already have a community launch, and then everyone thinks cool, it's a good idea, like it's happening all around me, and then next thing market turns. But everyone wants to obviously still keep building, so to bring the community back in, it's a very nice setup.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think there are still a few issues with it, right? Like are founders going to want to take the risk of raising in a fluctuating token? Because if I allow you to exchange, a volatile,
you just like manipulate the charts and then get the round at a discount.
And get the round at a discount. So the founders
taking that it works the other way around. Like in an ideal world, it works the other way around.
Exactly. Yeah. The founders kind of taking on an unusual amount of risk with this model. I decided to do it because I wanted to experiment, and it's very. I think it's an interesting model, right? The goal is to back the token with equity. That's the goal. Somehow, some way, are we able to take these meme coins and make them legit by backing them with equity, or at least giving you the opportunity to get equity? And I think that that's an interesting mission. So that's kind of what ACE is. We experimented with it, and yeah, we'll see what happens with it. But the ownership economy stuff is definitely one of the things I'm most bullish about in this next Bitcoin run, if it happens. I think that is going to be a huge thing. Whether that's MetaDAO or MetalX leading the way, or some other third party, I think is up for debate. But it's definitely going to be a big thing.
Yeah, I wonder how prediction markets. It's like if you want to have some sort of feedback from your community on how they think a token sale would go, you could first have a market open, but you'd sort of want the market to settle after. Yeah, if the market settles at a later stage, then I mean it's pretty much the same as just setting the token live. But yeah, I don't know how projects are gonna. Like, how do you think crypto projects will leverage prediction markets to boost their communities? I'm not seeing it so much. Like, it's more the prediction markets themselves that are using it.
I honestly think that the best example right now is MetaDAO with its futarchy model. So
Mm,
MetaDAO has this thing where instead of kind of voting on proposals like you would do traditionally in a DAO, I own a certain amount of tokens. I get to I that gives me voting weight over other people. They do it differently, where it's a prediction market, and you kind of put your money where your mouth is, and you basically bet yes or no on whether you think a policy is going to work. And if more people bet yes, then the policy will go through. And the idea is that, as people back their beliefs with in a betting market, in a prediction, or in a
mm.
future market, the it you know the, it, it's more likely to happen the way that people want it to happen, right? Because
Yeah, it also
it yeah.
kind of decreases corruption because you like if you if you bribe unsuccessfully, all of your partners in your little thing will lose their capital. Um, so it's
Mhm.
like if you do a governance vote and you just voting with the tokens that you have, like you've got no downside or real upside unless that's happening on the side. Um, so it's nice and transparent.
Yeah, nice and transparent. And also, I think there's some of this belief that you can kind of predict the outcome of a event before it happens, right? Because if you look at policies today, uh, the idea behind futarchy, I believe, is to to create anticipatory, or to predict the outcome before it actually happens, right? So the way we create policies today, or moves, is anticipation of reaction to what's going to happen. But if we know the outcome already, we can basically create a better decision. So I don't know. It's an experimental idea, but
Mm.
it's interesting nonetheless.
I, I wonder how it would affect like juries. Like imagine if your jury had to like your jury stand of 10 people, they each have to put in $1,000, and if they select the side that gets executed, they they win, and if they select the other side, they lose.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, applying prediction markets to legal proceedings is something I have not seen, actually. I think there's a whole other space that could be opened up there. I've seen things like, will this person be guilty or will this person not be guilty? But I haven't actually seen people get into the granularity of like a court proceeding.
Yeah, that's
And you mentioned,
what got me thinking about it is I was chatting to someone and they were deeply tied up in a case, and it was sort of, I guess they have inclination towards like shocking stories, but not going to get into exactly what the case was about. But the amount of time and energy going into it would almost seem like the amount of conviction needed to place a trade. It's like almost like it sounds like you want to trade on this, like you've done so much research on what you think is going to happen in this case. Like it sounds like you want to trade on this. But yeah, be like you're sort of outsourcing a jury. It's sort of like an open jury saying what is the world think of this. Like it you could probably do the same thing. Maybe that's how it will work for like Love Island or whatever, these reality TV shows where people get voted off, and the voter, like they just send a message, or I don't know how it works. Or America's Got Talent, but if that became a trade, and then your engagement becomes deeper because you're watching the show more intensely because you want to know who's getting voted off for sure, because you've got
yeah, I think it'd be pretty interesting to apply it to that. Government policy as well would be interesting in terms of, I mean, the initial model for futarchy was predicated upon maybe coming up with a better way to invoke government policies. Why are we just kind of creating these policies in a void when we have this amazing predictive power of the markets that can help us inform about what's exactly going to happen? I think the issue is that there's still misaligned incentives. right? Someone could come along and manipulate the market. Someone could come along and just dump tons of cash into the market. May like arguably, maybe in some instances that would help with the prediction, right? But I don't know. But
This, this is this is something I was thinking about. Where what is the strongest signal? You got two hedge funds that control other people's money, or you've got 1,000 people with trading $5 or $10, but to them that's like a meaningful fraction of their disposable income or of their income. Like what is actually a better signal in that scenario? Maybe it's the hedge funds because they've done their research and humans are emotional, or that's probably the case. Let's be honest.
yeah.
It's your $5. Like you're gonna be wanting to make it into $25, not $5.50.
So I wanted to kind of touch base with you a little bit about liquidity. So I feel like you're not charging fees on profit right now, correct?
We do charge fees on trading.
Okay, so you're charging fees. People are making money. The one thing that I feel has yet to be added is liquidity. Once you get liquidity going, we're good to go. I mean, people are already using it. They're already making money. How are you thinking about doing that? You mentioned to me in private a little bit about pari-mutuels, which is a concept that Mealy just came up with, or they didn't come up with it. It's an old concept, but they're using it to kind of create their permissionless event market creator. Are you thinking about doing the same thing?
So we've been working on a liquidity solution for a while, and we're gonna move forward with that, get that live, because it's something that we can implement in the next couple of weeks. But the pari-mutuel market is very interesting long term. I think Function Space has a similar setup, but the concept, as I understand it, is there's basically one pool based on your time and like the amount you enter with, that's your share price. And then if you exit before resolution, I don't want to say get slashed, but like you're selling to all of the potential winners. So you're not necessarily like selling to another user or market maker. So the benefit there is that like the market's fully liquid the whole time until resolution, and it pretty much can scale infinitely. Like there's no limit on trade sizes. Obviously, you can't sell into more liquidity than's in the pool, but you can buy as many shares at any time, without anyone needing to match you. And then the cons are just like there's not really fixed odds in that. If you buying in, you're going to be up if the market executes in your favor, but you don't know exactly how much return you're going to be getting. It should only go up though. I think it does only go up, but it still makes it a little bit, I guess it's never bad if you cash out more. It's just confusing for the user if you don't know how much. It's just a bit confusing. I think I don't really see another way for every market to become liquid. Obviously, we want to help as much as possible in the beginning. That's our whole goal, is like, how do we make sure that the first person who puts capital in the pool can win money if they chose the correct side, which pari-mutuel markets don't really solve. They don't solve it all. Like if one person puts in the pool, they have no upside. They only have their own capital. So yeah, it's something that's very interesting. We're going to ship our current solution first, and then start experimenting with it.
When do you think, in terms of timeline, what are you thinking in terms of the release for the liquidity product?
I can't talk about timelines as a non-technical person.
That makes sense. That's fine. We made the mistake at Polyfactual. We would give ourselves, it's so funny because at every company I've worked for, including my own, we've always tried to avoid the hard timeline because it's like something goes wrong in the development, right? Last minute, someone will be like, look, there's a bug that we got to solve, and then you have to push it off. We made the mistake of giving ourselves a hard timeline with Polyfactual for our first product. But most of the times, at most of the companies I've worked for, they're like soft timelines, general timelines.
The one time I don't regret putting in a hard timeline is for launch, because we could have we could have still been unlaunched easily.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to get feedback, and start with like what priorities need working on, rather than how do we make everything perfect, even if users don't necessarily want it. So yeah, first priority for us is to increase the house liquidity again, make sure the algorithm is pricing, and then liquidity in the foreseeable future. Maybe we'll open a market on when Profit will have liquidity.
Yeah. It's so funny because I've lately I've been thinking about all the markets I could open for Polyfactual. Just like, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? But I've been thinking about using Profit to do it. So it's
Yeah, it's like if we were operating in size, and it's like you had something that you wanted to do, but you needed to incentivize yourself to do it, you could be like, cool, I'm putting 2K, 3K in this. My return will be 8K if I get it done by this date.
exactly.
Otherwise, I lose it, and then it becomes like a way to incentivize yourself. I think that's actually a pretty interesting concept, like sort of personal goals app, but you're staking capital on yourself. The question is, like, it's fairly difficult to price and resolve. Like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have a strike by the end of the year. At the end of the year, you just Photoshop an image, pop it in. I promise.
I think that is actually one of the greatest use cases for a company who wanted to implement prediction markets, is creating those incentive markets.
Yeah.
Will we do this? You could even do it for hiring too. Like, if you wanted to create more equitable hiring or whatever, you could create a prediction market saying, will Goldman Sachs hire this candidate, this candidate, this candidate? You could essentially just incentivize Goldman Sachs to hire a certain candidate. They could take the insider trade, So I think that there is an incentive. I think that the incentive market concept is there. I just think we got to figure out the liquidity issues and resolution issues potentially.
Yeah, like for any market to scale, you really have to have people on either side, which is also going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the streaming, because you potentially have an audience that you don't necessarily have a game. Like, a game's obvious, you have two sides playing the game, but what are the two sides in the streaming world if it's like one streamer? Maybe that's not where it kicks off, but it kicks off where there's a group of people. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
So this is so I know we don't have a lot of time. We're already at 40 minutes. I don't want to keep you too long, but this is actually really interesting. You sent me this earlier. I wanted to talk about it. Your general temperature of prediction markets. And I think this is an important conversation right now, because we're seeing a lot of bearish stuff about prediction markets recently. We saw a number of terminals just shut down. Fireplace just shut down. They were a massive terminal. Mustafa got fired from Polymarket. I don't know if he got fired. He might have left. He might have got fired.
If he wants to get involved, he must let me know.
Yeah. Mustafa, if you're watching this,
I'm going to open the market. Will he join Profit?
Send in a message. So I don't know. I just wanted to get your kind of maybe spark notes on this, because you guys published this roadmap for prediction markets. That Claude gave you. But it's pretty interesting.
Purely Claude. I asked. So I saw I had unlimited payable access. I actually regret not making a whole bunch more of these, because it was an interesting read. I just asked what will happen with prediction markets in the next. Give me a quarter by quarter breakdown. I think if we skip forward, the first section is pretty obvious. I think the first blow up, like there will be a blow up. There will be
every financial innovation.
There will be a FTX. There will be some crazy leverage stuff going on, like guaranteed. And it could even be through one of these intermediary type platforms. Would be my guess. Like you have an insurance company that uses prediction markets to hedge whatever they're doing, and they over leverage, and there's some sort of cascading effect of that. But that's not so exciting to speak about. I think the AI native market making, like with any market that matures, the participants that have the most information end up on top. So the majority of volume, I think, will be driven by agents. That's guaranteed. The question is, like, will the who's got the system that's really working, because things are always changing, especially with prediction markets. You're trading on a complete unknown. I think if we skip to, it's saying Q3 2029 is when internal prediction markets will come to fruition, which it's pretty far away. I'd like to think we could move that sooner. It's crazy that it was tried so long ago, and maybe even that case study was enough to show that it's not helpful. But yeah, maybe if Fable thinks there will be a comeback, that seems likely. I think
it's interesting that Fable gave these pegs, because initially I had the blow up happening around the end of the election, right? Or like just as we're crossing in from 2028 to like 29 or so, or maybe like late 2028 or something like that, right around, because that's when a lot of these blow ups happen. So that's when I had it pegged. But Claude's giving an earlier date for the financial blow up. It sounds like there might be two blow ups. It sounds like there's like an initial blow up, and then there's an after election blow up, which is which is kind of foreboding. But then it seems like it's smooth sailing through 2030. I mean, it seems like that's when things will get,
Yeah, I'm interested what's going to happen on the resolution front, because I don't think that's been fully, like, that still to me is the core of the issue that exists, is how do you verify these outcomes. Like you have the crazy scenarios of the most verifiable outcomes being manipulated. Like it doesn't seem like that should be happening, but it's still happening all the time. So I wonder, like, at what stage the outcome manipulation stops. I guess at that stage we are fully tracked in everything that we do, and the government's resolving the markets. But hopefully we don't get there, or Elon's just resolving all the markets on X News. I mean, out of all of this, I think the part that's most interesting is the point where AI starts beating most human forecasters, because that's really where like profit will be able to scale. Until that point,
it has that in 2030, basically.
Yeah, it has. It's much further down than I would have liked. I think it will come a lot sooner. We might just have to implement a proof of personhood to trade against, to trade on profit. Like that might be the only solution.
I've had that conversation before too. At what point, when AI forecasters get so good that they're trading the market? I mean, already you're seeing that there are some prediction market categories that are completely unusable almost without an agent's help. Um, and I've been asking people, okay, well, when we reach like perfect market efficiency, what does that look like? Maybe people still play the game just for the sake of the game. It's that's the question that I've always, and it gets even weirder when you talk about equities, right? Um, at what point, if all the agents are kind of trading the same way, are we just going to be watching perfect productivity unfold with no, you know what I'm saying? So
Mm,
it's an interesting question. But I like how they got the one thing I like in this too, or one of the things I like is how they got the IPO of Kelshi right before the blow up, which is so accurate. I mean, of course, that's what's going to happen. You don't need like I could have told you that's what's going to happen. That's that, but I'm glad that Fable put it in there.
um, I think that. Wait, what were you saying just before that?
What does the world look like when we have perfect market
Yeah,
efficiency?
yeah. I was gonna say you can't, like, in my mind the solution is make it a human versus AI game, but there's no way that that's gonna be possible. Like, there's no way. I mean, human AIs are employed at companies right now, and the people who are employing them don't even know. Or there's some dude managing 7 jobs. So the verifiability of humans trading, I think realistically it's going to be AIs versus AIs, but humans will still want to be a part of the game. Like you still, even like, I guess it's similar to, most people will put their investments within asset manager, and that's always how it will be. But for people who like to look at charts, um, that's not going to be the case, and I don't really see that changing, because there's a level of, like, it becomes your hobby almost. And it's also a big part of your future, where someone who's just like, okay, cool, my asset manager is going to do everything. Maybe they get more time to do like making little bead sculptures, like. So I think it will definitely still be a game for me. It's a very fun game, and it's a nice, like, lens to look through the world, to look throughout the world. Sort of puts things in perspective, and if AI has the correct information, it just means that we'll have more accurate probabilities, which can't be a bad thing.
So, I don't want to keep you too much longer. We're almost at an hour. I guess my last question for you is kind of getting into your trajectory on this timeline. Where do you see permissionless event contract creation, people creating their own markets, people spinning up whatever? Where do you see that taking off? And kind of what's next for you guys? What's the soonest peg in
I, I
what
think
you're launching?
I think it's pretty much distribution wars from here on out. Like, that's really where it will be captured. I think permissionless prediction markets will come to all major platforms. I mean, I think we talked before about how, even with Polymarket currently, you sort of, it is almost permissionless, because you've got so many options, but just the sheer amount of markets, like, there's no shortage of markets. It's purely how do we get these in the hands of users, and how do we get relevant markets in the hands of users. So one thing that I haven't seen from Kalshi and Polymarket, which I would have expected sooner, is the feed. Like, the feed seems like a very obvious next step. If you have tens of thousands of markets, how do you present that to your user? So I think that the feed will be one that comes very, very soon. You see this with guys that are building like aggregators on top of them, and then they're building the feed. Maybe Polymarket doesn't worry about building the feed, because someone else is already doing it on top of them. But yeah, I see us now in the in the distribution wars section, we really got to focus on building relationships that will allow us to scale rapidly, and that the permissionless markets feature will be used heavily by some. I think most traders will still trade markets that are relevant to them. The creativity needed to come up with a market is not what everyone's willing to put in to get the feeling of being engaged in an outcome. So I think it's a very important thing to have, and it will help provide relevant markets to 95% of the users, but 95% of the users will be traders. So distribution wars, and then where we're really moving towards is just getting the AI market making on point, because that's also the next big unlock.
I mean, the two trends that I'm most bullish on, if we go into my philosophy on the next 5 years, next 10 years, even maybe, what is going to be the thing that everyone's doing? I think you're going to continue to see AI disrupt traditional labor markets. And I do agree with the fact that we're just going to get into more speculative markets. So you're going to have more traders, but you're also going to have more people creating assets and creating assets out of anything, right? Tokenizing, this is why I'm so bullish on tokenization. You're going to see people tokenizing, already on MetaDAO, you see, dinosaur bones tokenized. Maybe my YouTube channel, I tokenize. Maybe, my little side hustle, I'll tokenize that. You're going to see all of these people trying to create assets and trade assets. I see this as the asset creation side, right? If you're creating a market, you're creating an asset. If you're creating a prediction an event, you're basically launching an asset into the world that you can passively make money off of. So that's kind of how I see this stuff fitting into this timeline.
Yeah. But are you in agreement that like there will be more people buying dinosaur bones than tokenizing dinosaur bones? Like the market of sellers will always be smaller than the market of,
I think so, yeah,
buyers. Yeah. I mean, it almost flipped with the meme coin mania, where there were so many sellers that there just weren't enough buyers. So at some point it'll probably reach equilibrium.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. Yeah, like you kind of froze up there a little bit, but basically you're on the side of like you think there'll be an equal amount of people tokenizing and trading, or you think there's always going to be
No. I'm saying let's specifically creating markets. There will be less market creators than market traders, because humans are similar. There's big groups of people. You only need one leader in that group to be hot on that topic. Like not everyone. There's more people listening to podcasts than recording podcasts, because of the shared interest.
I think so. I think you're right. I think fundamentally there will always be more people trading, and arguably you could say that each category carries its own risk. If you create an asset, you have to really kind of use a little bit of creative energy. Even now with AI, even when you're able to spin up assets really fast, like you can spin up a company really fast with Claude Code, you can get the whole thing built. That doesn't mean it's a good company. You still have to come up with the strategy. You still have to come up with the go-to-market. Building an asset is a lot more than just, building things fast. You have to actually think about what your strategy is. So there's risk in that. I'm not trading during that time, right? I'm leaving all that trading profit on the table. So I think more people will prefer. I think that there'll always be a heavier weight of risk on the production side. At least for a while.
What one last thought on the future that I'll close off with is been thinking a lot about indices, and how with prediction market indices holding a large number of small positions, which plays into the direction you think the world is going to move, is a nice way to be exposed financially. So you can almost see a situation where I have a conversation with my my AI, say, cool, we're gonna chat about the future for the next hour, and I want you to come back to me with a indice of 100 different markets that can expose me to this version of the future that I personally I'm excited to help create. So I think that's a nice way, and it's a way I've been using it to just say like, cool, I want to do. I think the weather's going to be bad, but instead of trading one weather market, I'm going to trade 100 tiny weather markets. There's going to be 3 on wind, 1 on rain, or 1 on whatever else, and my exposure it's diversified, so that the likeliness of more consistent returns is good.
Yeah, indices I'm really bullish on as well. I just think it's just when you look at it from a numbers game, right? Polymarket, Kelshi, Profit, you guys, you're creating markets every single day. It's really hard to keep track of all those markets. So you're going to need indices to just participate, I think, if you want to get optimal exposure, because there's no way you can track all of those futures markets by yourself. There's just no way you can do that. So I do see indices as being a huge area, whether that's in the form of like a token.
If we're looking at like 2031, 2032, we can almost imagine the same as like you're exposed to prediction markets because you have a retirement fund. Like people are now exposed to Bitcoin, not because they are actively long Bitcoin, but because their financial managers are.
Yeah, I fully agree. Anyway, it was great having you on.
Thanks so much.
And please, let me know whenever you want to come back. When you guys get the liquidity set up, I want to.
Let's do that liquidity market fee share. That'll be big. That'll be a good episode.
Yeah, I want to do a whole episode around it then. Great having you on, and looking forward to our next conversation.
Keep well, John. Ciao.
See you.